yeah, so this is the first edible garden live show. I've had a few technical difficulties and issues this morning, just trying to make sure I've got Wi-Fi outside here in the garden. It was also super windy, but now the sun is shining and we're here. So I'm just sitting with my back to part of the garden, and my cat, who obviously wants to be in on all the action as well. Let me just see. It's very hard for me to see the screen to see if anybody is in yet, but just bear with me for a moment. But there we go. Hi, welcome. I can see I've got a couple of people joining me already. Because I'm going to be wandering around doing things in the kitchen and so on, what I'll do is, if you've got any questions and things, just write them in the comments, and then I'm going to be checking those at the end, and I'll answer whatever I've got time to answer live, and then if not, just check back in and I'll be typing little messages and things like that for you. So today I've got a couple of very exciting things to do with you. One of them is to introduce you to no-dig gardening. I've only recently, the last couple of years I've come across this myself, and I just haven't gone back to the traditional digging kind of whole thing of trying to break up this heavy London soil, then trying to grow stuff in it. So the no-dig thing has been a complete godsend. So I'm just going to show you how to do it today, because you've still got time to set this up and then grow stuff this summer. So behind me you'll also see a whole bunch of strawberries. I started out with about 10 plants, and then I realized they were incredibly invasive. They love the London soil, so I've basically become a strawberry farmer. Anyway, let's go. Bear with me as I walk you around. One of the things I also want to mention is sometimes you may not have that much space of your own, but you never know. You might have a neighbor or somebody who's willing for you to use a little bit of their plot, which is what I'm going to do now. My neighbor has a big garden, but he's a bit older. He doesn't do very much with it. In exchange for me keeping it kind of looking okay for him, I also get a little bit of extra space. So okay, let's set you up so you can see my little no-dig thing happening here. Okay, there we go. Great. So, got my gloves. This is where it's all happening, in the no-dig zone. Literally, I had this sitting in the garage, well, not in the garage, in my little shed. Don't have a garage, what am I talking about? And so I'm going to use that, but you don't actually need to have anything. It looks a little bit neater. You could just pile this up, you could put little logs alongside, you could have a little, maybe you've got, whatever you've got, maybe you've just got some tiles, you can put those around it, whatever. Literally just laid a lot of cardboard down on top of this kind of just weeds. So that's how I started it off. As much cardboard as you can get, just lay it on there. A really good tip is order yourself a case of wine. They come and lots of cardboard. So that's what I've used. I've used 2 wine boxes, and not all from this time of being indoors. I hasten to add. So the only thing you need is you need to start gathering stuff. So one of the things I'm going to do on top of the cardboard is I've been doing a bit of weeding, a little bit of cutting grass and so on, and then I just laid this out in the sun to dry, but it doesn't have to be dry either, but I've dried it off anyway. So I put that down on top of the cardboard as a kind of base layer to fill it up a little bit. There we go. Quite a lot goes in there. Here's some I'm going to do later on. And then on top of that, you lay your nice growing compost. I got a whole bunch of compost off somebody off FreeCycle last year. You may have your own, maybe you need to buy a couple of packets, but this does take up a fair amount of it. But if you've got things like, you know, dead leaves, things like that, anything that's organic and that's going to rot down, you can put in there. Don't put any food stuff in, or the foxes will be at it and loving it and digging everything up. So here's a very heavy bag of compost, and I'm just going to tip it over. Pin that in somewhere, doesn't fly away. And then you just spread it out. You can use a fork, your hands, what have you, and just put enough of it on there so that the roots can kind of grow into this. And eventually what you've got underneath is just going to break down and be plants. So here's another corner that I did at the weekend. So there we go. You just fill up whatever area you have like this, super easy. If you want to make sure that you get even less of this weed stuff coming through, if you've got really pernicious weeds, what you can do is you can get some brown paper. Some people use newspaper, but I'm not sure about the inks, so I've got a little bit of these paper bags. I just save them, and then when I come to planting, I'm going to put this on here, break a little hole in it, and stick my plant through there, and that's going to add an extra layer of protection. It'll hope foxes and the squirrels digging stuff up as well. So I haven't tried this extra layer yet, but I've been researching it and apparently that works well. So I'm just going to cover this up again to stop cats, foxes, squirrels digging around in it, and then I'll just finish that off and it's ready for planting after that. So I highly recommend this, especially, you know, if your back's giving you trouble, anything like that, and you don't want to do the whole dig, double dig, break up the clumps, etc., and wait for years for that little bit of land to become properly usable. So there we go, that's it, easy, easy peasy. Now I'm off screen, I'm just going to walk you to the kitchen. And on the way, we're going to stop off to admire things, because of course that's what you've got to do in the garden. So I've got a wonderful jasmine that's very pot bound, but it is just bursting into flower. I've never quite seen it like this. Not particularly edible as such. Some I don't think this one is. If I knew exactly what it was, I might make tea out of it. Then here is my cavolo nero patch, my I think it's called black kale, and we're going to be cooking with this. I've done some picking already, so I've got some in the kitchen ready to go. Let's go. And next week I'm going to give you a little bit more of a tour of the garden as well, just to have a look at what else is growing in there. Right. So, just setting up the tripod, making sure you can see everything. Thank you, Eleanor, thank you. That's lovely. And let's see, yeah, I think we're good. So, yeah, let me pull you a little bit closer. just in case of any audio issues. There we go. Oop. Great, fantastic. So I'm going to be making two things with you today, and something is already cooking in the oven, so I'm going to turn that off because it is making me really hot in the oven. So the first I'll show you is a dish that I actually kind of made up myself. I haven't seen anything like this anywhere, but I was playing around and it's become a favorite, which is, I'm going to use cavolo nero from the garden. I'm going to use frozen, but you know, you can use fresh or frozen or whatever, blackcurrants. These are from last year. I've got two big blackcurrant bushes and I've still got blackcurrants in the freezer. So we've got those. And then the other ingredients that are going to go in are basically a little bit of, I've got no idea how you pronounce this, chipotle paste, or if you have chipotle flakes, you can use ordinary chili, but I really like that smoky flavour that you get from a chipotle. Chipotle. Anyway, and then I'm going to cook in a little bit of, you can use oil, but I think it comes out just a bit nicer with butter. And then you'll need honey, or you will need what I'm going to use, which is a bit of elderflower cordial that I made, elderflower syrup, last year, because it just adds a little bit of kind of a floral fragrance to it all. So first thing you do, let me move that out of the way, you just chop up your cavolo nero. I really enjoy listening to podcasts when I'm cooking. I used to listen to lots of, there's obviously radio, music, all the rest of it, but my latest thing is just listening to a whole load of podcasts. What I would do is, I don't put these bits in, but I'll keep them because I'll cook something else with them. I'll chuck them in a soup or something like that, so they go to the side there. Right, so let's get this fired up. Add my butter. It's really just to cook with. Thank you. I can see there's comments and questions and things. While that's warming up, let me come have a look. Oh gosh, the picture's gone the wrong way. I am so sorry about that. I've kept trying to sort that out this morning. I thought about it and Facebook just keeps flipping me around. So I will try and do that at the end and go back in and flip it. Right now, middle of everything, unfortunately I can't turn it round. So sorry about that. Okay. So that's hot. So I throw in the leaves, all of them. There we go. Then let me find something to stir it with. So you just start letting those leaves cook very lightly in there. I don't know. That's kind of a close-up. There we go. Then I chuck in, not quite sure how much. I'm going to put in maybe, for this amount, just over a deciliter, is half a cup or so. These I'll save for later for my dessert. They can go in with my yogurt. So the one thing, once you've added the berries, is you kind of keep stirring this because the berries like to stick to the bottom. If it looks like things are sticking, you can pour in just a little bit. I do just a bit to help them cook and not stick. Then I'll add a little bit of salt usually as well, just a tiny bit, don't like it too salty. Then your honey, your elderflower syrup, which if I could open it would be really good. There we go. And I pour in maybe 2 cupfuls of this amount. Obviously to taste, depending on if you like it sweeter or less, so that's in there. And my final ingredient, which is the chipotle, and completely to taste. I like it kind of medium hot, nothing too wild, but with a little bit of a kick to it, so you only need, you know, a kind of a good knife and full, teaspoonful, I guess is the correct terminology, in there. And then it's quite nicely. This really takes no time at all. So if you want a quick lunch, maybe have a side of halloumi, whatever else you want to kind of eat with this. Sometimes I just eat this on its own, but it's nice to have a little bit of something next to it. And that's pretty much done. They say it cooks in, what, 5 minutes or so? So there we go. And you kind of get a sweet and sour kind of flavour out of it, and obviously the blackcurrant tart as well. So some people don't like the tartness so much, but if you like things that are, you know, lemony, vinegary, just in general kind of tart, I think you'll really, really love this. So that one is ready, and I'm going to have that in a bit for my lunch. Right. Next on the agenda, again, let me come and have a look to see what is happening. Yeah, the side-on view, we'll fix that next time. But great. Oh, and there is a watch party at Transition Town. Brilliant. This is probably a good time to mention that obviously apart from the Upper Norwood Library Hub, this is also a collaboration with the Library of Things' new exciting thing called Library of People. So I am one of the people in the Library of People, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, so hi Antje, and Eleanor as well. Really, really nice to see that you're there. And I know from chatting with Eleanor yesterday that she's got a whole bunch of kale that she doesn't quite know what to do with in her fridge. Now I've got these box schemes as well, and I get a lot of this curly kale at this time of year. I don't really grow it, partly because I'm keen on the texture personally, but you can obviously soften it up, put it into lots and lots of things. But my favourite thing that I've recently discovered is to make kale crisps, especially now in lockdown. They go so well with a little glass of wine at the end of the day when you want to unwind, but you don't want to just stuff your face with potato crisps all the time, because you know you want to fit out the door once all this is over. So I'm going to make kale crisps with a twist, because obviously I've got stuff in the garden as well, and you can probably find some of this stuff by foraging. So I'll show you a few things I picked from the garden. This is a, for those of you, some of you may actually know what this is, it is a mustard green. It's already gone to flower, but that's fine. And I some of the leaves, which are all stuck together because I washed them, but the leaves kind of look like that. So I've picked a bunch of these leaves. Then I've already got some nasturtiums growing because I never pulled the plant out at the end of last winter. So these are the nasturtium leaves that I've picked. They're very pretty, and they're actually really tasty when you make crisps out of them. And then I have some young horseradish leaves, just a couple. So I'm going to prepare these and add them in with the kale. But if you only have kale, that's fine too. These are a little bit kind of hotter than the kale. They add a bit more bite to the whole proceedings. Quite pretty. Maybe I'll stick that in a vase or something. Anyway, put it out the way for now. Good. So what you'll need is an oven dish or two. actually take up quite a surprising amount of room, so I'm going to do 2 dishes. And let's see, I've got lots of messages coming up again. There we go. Let me see if I can put them down there. Great. So all you need to do really, oh, and then you need a bowl. That's about everything that you need equipment wise. So what you want to do is you want to chop up the kale. Some people try and take off that middle bit. I'm quite a lazy cook, so I tend not to. I'll take off the very end bit because that gets quite stewy, but the rest of them, if it's just too much, then I just eat the sides as I go. But I also quite like eating the middle bit. I really don't mind it. Again, you can use these bits in soup, you can chuck them out, you can stir fry them, you know, whatever you like to do. Mush them up. Other pesto ingredients maybe. I've never tried that. They might be too hard for that. Right, so that's there. And I need a little bit of space. Whoop. And then I just chop them into kind of yay size pieces. And some of them are smaller, and that's fine. We're not that fussy about the shape of our crisps, it's about what they taste like. Obviously the fresher the kale, I think the better, but I've even made it started yellowing because I just didn't want to chuck it out. And it was, to be honest, perfectly fine. While you're doing this, actually I should have mentioned, just stick your oven on to about 120 degrees. If, I don't think, yeah, my oven doesn't have airflow, so maybe if you've got airflow you stick it to 100, something like that, and then they're going to be in the oven for about half an hour, but you just need to check because all you're doing is drying them out in the oven. So that's my kale. Then I'm going to put in some of this exotica, as it were. Again, I think I am just going to put these in straight as they are, the small leaves as they are. Just chop some of the bigger ones up a little bit. There we go. Mustard also makes a really nice pesto with a bit of a kick. We use spinach in a miso soup. It's really, really versatile and it grows so quickly. You literally just chuck some seeds wherever you want it to grow, and very soon you've got a little mustard farm there. So now that's a little bit, but never mind. Then I'm going to pour in a bit of oil, olive oil usually. I use maybe a couple of tablespoonfuls. It's really just there to coat everything and to make whatever you're going to flavour them with stick. So, some flavouring options. You can go wild, but one of the things I've used is just the oil and some paprika. So that gives a nice smoky flavour. But these ones I am going to make with, I've just got a chilli and garlic mix there. I could also grind up some chipotle that I have and add that to the mix. But I think today I fancy chilli and garlic. So again, completely to taste. You chuck some in, maybe about that much. I'm going to add a bit of salt as well. It makes them feel like crisps to us. And then you stick your hands in and just kind of massage it like that. Or, you know, if you've got cats, you know how they kind of knead things. Or if you've ever done pottery, you kind of are getting the air bubbles out of this. And then when you've kind of coated everything, you just put it in your trays. Just lay it out. I'll show you in a minute. It needs a little bit of space. You don't want to put it, you kind of want it in a single layer. There we go. And I have got the most greasy hands ever. Just let me clean them up. This is great for the hands. You know, if you've been washing your hands loads and they're super dry, just get them stuck in that olive oil and it's fantastic. Right, So that's kind of how I put them on there. And these then just go in the oven. I put them in the middle of the oven, and I'm going to show you, hopefully, my previous ones that I put in earlier, like they do on all cooking shows, should be ready. So, yes, right, so these go in the oven, back on to about 120, maybe a little bit less, because while I'm talking to you I might forget. So they're in there. Now, oh yes, this is going to be hot. So that's the ready-made crisps. You put them into obviously a nice bowl. I don't know if you can hear that at all, but they're very crisp and dry now. I put, what did I put on these? I think I put some chili on these. So I'm just going to taste one, make sure that they are okay. These are excellent. These will go very, very well as a little aperitif. And I hope you enjoy them too. A lot of the crisps, how should I say it? A lot of what attracts us, I think, to the crisps is all the flavourings in them and the crunch. Because you kind of want, when you want something like that, you're like, I'm looking forward to the crunch and the saltiness, a bit of oil. And these give you exactly the same kind of mouthfeel. Obviously, you can still taste it's something green. It's not a potato, but you kind of, it's pretty guilt-free really, even if you're trying to eat healthily. I'd say making a few batches of these and gets rid of that kale that's sitting in your fridge. So that's it for today. Let me come and have a look at some of those loads and those comments coming along. So let me see. Oh great. There's no questions that I can see as of yet, but I will check properly on my big screen and I'll answer some questions online. I'm going to be here again next week, Tuesday, 1 o'clock. That'll be episode number 2. Then there'll be kale. And then there'll be another 4 more episodes, and I've got a lot of things planned. It's spring, there's lots of stuff coming up. Hopefully the episodes will be out either next week or the week after in my little tree at the back there, and I'll make some fritters or something like that with you. And I've got a lot of stuff growing, and I kind of want to introduce you to different plants in the garden. So that pretty much wraps it up for now. I just want to kind of give a shout out to both Joe Duggan for pulling me into this, suggesting that this might be a good thing to do because I'm really enjoying it. And obviously the Upper Norwood Library Hub, to Rin, who's been helping me out with this, and obviously Eleanor, who we had such a fun chat with yesterday. So I think this is such a great thing, and I'm going to be watching some of the other live videos this evening when I've got a bit of time. So thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next week.